Hi, Chris Francis here, again in the studio. And very quickly, I thought I'd talk about macro lens, macro photography, and how to do it on the cheap. So here I have a standard camera, and attached to it, I have a 50mm 1.8. Now with this lens, I can actually focus from a distance about from there. For macro lens, we really want to get the lens, the camera, and the sensor as close as possible, so we're filling the frame and we're also able to focus and see the fine detail in the subject that we're shooting. Obviously, the 50mm is a very good lens. It's very cheap, but very versatile, but it can't do that. There are dedicated lenses that actually do macro, and here in my hand I have a 1.5mm 2.8 G lens, which I use for my macro photography. I also use this for portraits. It's extremely quick and it's extremely sharp. However, it comes at a price. So a workaround, if you don't have a macro lens or the budget to do a macro lens, is to use these. These are extension tubes. What the extension tubes do is allow the lens to be further away from the sensor itself. So camera is off. So what it does, it goes in between the sensor and the lens, therefore making the distance further, allowing the camera to be able to focus on smaller subjects. So this particular one is a digital one. It has components in it, so it hooks up the CPU to the lens. We'll talk about that later. So this particular one comes in three sections. There is a 36mm, there is a 20mm, and there is a 12mm. Each one could be used separately. So with the 12mm, if I put it on, you just put it on like you put a lens on. Then you put your lens on top of that, like that. And then it's able to get closer to the subject like that. The beauty about these extension tubes is that you can stack them. So a 12mm added a 20mm. Now it's a 32mm, which allows you to get insanely closer to the subject you're taking. If you want to go really crazy, you can actually take that off. You can attach the 12mm, the 20mm, and the 36mm. And now you have a 68mm distance plus the 50mm onto the lens itself. Now when it comes to the photography, you can get really close up. In fact, you can get insanely close to the subject that you're taking. This is not a lesson on macro photography, and that is coming up in the springtime. But for now, I just want you to know that you don't have to buy a expensive macro lens to do macro photography. You can literally go out and buy yourself a set of macro lenses on eBay or on Amazon, and it'll set you back not that much money. So back in the day, I've had this for 4 years. I bought this for, I think, nearly £700 to new macro. It's still in good nick and I still use it a lot, but now, like I say, I use this for portraits. And when I want to do macro photography, I just use this. So as you can see, these can be very versatile and a cheaper alternative to actually doing macro photography. So if you want to get into macro photography and you don't want to spend a lot of money and you just want to experiment, then I think extension tubes are the way to go. These particular ones are branded digital, and I'll put a link in the description below of where I got this particular set from. These ones have electrical sensors, so it contacts the CPU of the camera, enabling the camera to actually detect that there is a lens attached and that it will help it focus. There are ones that you can manually focus. They're a bit cheaper than these, but with macro photography anyway, it helps if you do it in manual focus anyway, because of the very shallow depth of field. As I say, this isn't a lesson on macro photography. That will come in the weeks ahead. So if you want to learn more about becoming a better photographer, then please like, follow, or even subscribe, and that way you'll keep updated with the progress and the content I'm putting out. If you're interested in becoming a better photographer without all the gear chat and jargon, then subscribe to the channel and I'll keep you informed. In the meanwhile, happy shooting.